on here. Okay, mic is check. Mic check 2 1 2 1 2. I think we're good. Let me make sure that we're live here. All right. We are. Just send this out to my group chat. They usually spam the likes. All right. How is it going, everybody? This is, of course, your boy Bernie here, along with Brad and Pete. And today, guys, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Obviously, you can see here on the screen, we're going to talk about the new media melee that just happened over the weekend, or I guess say during the week. So we'll really discuss that, talk about what it means for both the Warriors and just kind of the NBA in general, because everyone had a reaction to this one. We're also going to talk about Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson. We saw their 2 games, and we're left amazed as usual. Again, there's a video out here on the charge talking about Victor Wembanyama, so make sure you go and check that out. We do an in-depth analysis on him as an NBA draft player profile series. Scoot Henderson is the next person to come out. That video will be out hopefully in the next week or two, as I kind of have more time to finish that editing up. But in the meantime, and then of course we're going to talk about the NBA awards. More so the trophies that the players get. We're going to save the All NBA stuff for next, or I guess maybe a couple days later, because the NBA season starts in I believe 8 days, which is kind of crazy to think. But let us start with the Draymond Green story, and let me just kind of read a little bit of the synopsis from The Athletic, and then we'll kind of talk as a group here and figure out what happened and why did it happen this way. So Sam Amnick from The Athletic says it was an early evening in Boston. Never mind. We don't need to talk about that one. Or maybe we do need to talk about it. An early morning, Boston, June 16th, some 6 hours before the Golden State Warriors would win its 4th NBA title in 8 seasons. Bleh. But at Game 6 of the NBA Finals against the Celtics and Bob Myers, Warriors-led executive who has been navigating dynasty dynamics for quite a few years, now had agreed to talk about the topic, which is no longer taboo, the Draymond Green dilemma. These sort of interviews can be tricky to conduct, and if you're asking a subject to reflect on a journey before it's completely finished, but it came to reality. If the Warriors had blown this series, the story that would have followed inside the Draymond Green Warriors partnership that perseveres and the plane ride to remember never would have been written. While the latest title deed wasn't done just yet, it just seemed like the roller coaster relationship between Green and the Warriors have been barreling towards a happy ending of some sorts. Storybook even. And then we obviously, again, this article kind of talks about kind of the history of Draymond Green. I think we all know that eventually both Draymond Green and Jordan Poole got into it at a practice this week, or I should say last week. Punches were thrown from Draymond Green. Jordan Poole didn't keep his hands up. Obviously got rocked with the sucker punch, in my opinion. And obviously it now leads for Draymond Green, who said, I believe yesterday or the day before, talking about how he wants to step away from this whole situation. Why don't I stop talking here? I think we all kind of understand the severity of this Draymond Green punch. Brad, why don't you start us off, man? What do you make of this whole situation? It's definitely not a good look for the Warriors. It's definitely not a good look for Draymond Green and Jordan Poole at this point. What's your opinion on it? Oh, hang on. Oh, hang on. My bad. I don't see my thing moving. Meaning that I didn't sync up the audio. That's my bad, everybody. Give me 1 second. I promise I did not mute Brad. Oh my God, where is it? Okay. Probably would be some. God dang it.
I'm watching a Mobile Suit Gundam. Comes out
Okay, which one?
every Sunday, I think. The Witch from Mercury. It's on Crunchyroll. It's
Okay,
pretty good.
that's a new
Good.
one out right now.
Yeah, yeah, it just came out. There's like 2 episodes.
Ooh, check that out. I've only watched. This is
Yeah,
like one of the best shows.
for real.
I'm not
It
afraid to
was
admit it.
beautiful.
That show probably made me cry like 5 times
Bro, for
in
real.
like
Oh, mm, mhm.
I was broken. I was a broken man.
I watched that with my wife,
I had to
and she cried when
I had to
Kakashi
put down
died.
the
That was
Roku remote.
hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. I had to put the Roku remote down and take a break after that one. I was like, it's time to walk away for the day. Let me go outside.
Okay, let's see here. All right, I think we're good now. We're good. All right.
Good? Okay.
Yeah. And then really quick, let me do this. I know. Oh my god.
Let me kill the music, man. Let me.
Brad, I'm excited to know you're into anime because I actually have a topic that I was gonna broach, a subject I was gonna broach later. That's an old charge gimmick that Bernie and I used to do, like a more gimmicky type of question for you too.
Oh, I'm down.
Anime
I'm
basketball
so
question.
down. I'm so down. I love it. I feel like anime and basketball are synonymous with each other. Like rap
The
and
one I got,
basketball
I feel
too.
like it might be the best anime storyline in the NBA. I'm ready for it. I'll
Ooh,
give it to you guys.
All right.
okay.
I think we are back and now we're recording. Everything's fine now. We're good. We're chilling. And then quickly before you go, Brad, just a kind of quick synopsis for this recorded part of the video. Clearly, Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, situation happened at practice, punches were thrown. TMZ acquired the film. It led to this whole chaotic mess. You know, Steve Kerr has spoken about it, talking about trust, talking about a family internal matter. I don't really think we've heard Steph Curry talk about it just yet. I mean, maybe he has talked about it, but and then of course we have Draymond Green talking about taking time away, stepping away. And I think that this is kind of a big deal, more so for the NBA, for the Warriors' perspective than really anything else. But Brad, what is your opinion on this whole thing?
Yeah, I think it's a mess. Coming off a ring, this is the last thing you want. Their spirits were high last week with preseason. They looked great, and then you have this happen, and it's just like, Steve Kerr in that interview looked tired, man. He looks he looks like he's had it with Draymond.
He looks sad. He looks
Yeah,
so sad.
it's
Put the Warriors'
one-liners,
perspective
barely
in.
wants to talk about it. Like, and they had that
Yeah.
incident with KD a couple years ago where Draymond did, we all know how that went. We don't need you. And then it led to KD leaving and destroying a dynasty, almost, I guess, but pretty much.
I think it
Uh,
did. I think you're on it.
it did. Yeah, it
Tired,
did.
man. He looks.
It's not the same, but yeah. Um, it's gonna be weird to see how it plays out because there's no book for
Mm-hmm.
this. Like they just have to kind of like I think it's crazy and I think it's wrong, but they kind of have to sweep it under the rug and just move forward
Mm-hmm.
if they want to be able to win a championship again and focus on the season. But at some point, it's going to rear its ugly head again, and depending on how Jordan feels or what the bad blood there is, he could leave the team. They could trade Draymond, but there's no way that they just play basketball continuously and pretend like this never happened. They're going to try to, but then something's going to happen.
Yeah. Pete.
And they're certainly going to try and convince us that they are. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the playbook right there, if anything. Because I mean, going
Mm-hmm.
back to the KD season, that final KD season, it is going to be such a great sports documentary in like 20 years when they can actually open up and talk about it. Because from everything that you
Mm-hmm.
heard from like guys like Chris Haynes, dudes that were in the building, it was not just a mess. That was like a derailer for the whole season, and they just so happened to make it to the finals because they were the Warriors. I mean, they were literally probably the best roster ever assembled, and they still made it to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
But All that being said, I'm going to take a very stereotypical Pete type approach to this. Conspiracy Pete is back in the building. I mean, what would I be here for if not? Let me pose a couple questions to you guys, just because these are the things I've been thinking about since this happened. All right. When the video leaked from TMZ, right? TMZ released the video. The instant assumption from everybody on the internet was that somebody got a bag to drop that video, right? That was everything I heard. Somebody sold this video. Why? Those practices that is hard to get that video. I mean, there's a reason we don't see that stuff hardly ever come out, you know? Because it made me think of like the OG video I wish I could get from maybe 5-6 years ago. I want to see Bobby Portis punch Mirotic. I wanted that video. That sounds
For
crazy.
real.
But those videos are so hard to get. So my conspiracy brain started pulling out these ideas of like, who really released this video? Right? Is this a Warriors type of leak trying? Because now, let me pose this situation. It is very hard to trade Draymond Green. He's going to ask for the max. He's not worth nothing. And they kind of need him. They have no rim protection. The Warriors have absolutely no defense if they get rid of Draymond Green, right? But that being said, this opens up a scenario where they can re-sign him much cheaper. Maybe even just for a year, maybe for 2 years. But the scenario is there now. And I would say that the biggest winners long-term potentially are the Warriors in this situation. And I know that sounds crazy, but they open up this possibility to either keep Draymond for less, which that's really, I guess I should correct myself. That's really the only way they can win this if they get him on a better deal than they would otherwise. But it does answer part of their problem, right? Like it shows that Draymond is this type of person. So the fans, at least, when Draymond gets shipped out, if he does get shipped out, could be less upset about it. Does that make sense? Because I think that's one of the things the Warriors are going to run up into. They have to extend these young guys. And Draymond wants this max. And then they have these other young guys that are coming up in Kuminga and Moody who are going to need playing time, need minutes, need contracts in a few seasons. This is one of those things where they're either going to get a cheaper deal or they're going to get slack for breaking up the original big three. So I'm wondering, maybe there's a leak with inside the building that they kind of knew was going to happen. I'm not saying Steve Kerr, but maybe Joe Lacob. It's just something to consider. Secondly, here's my other conspiracy theory. I'm very, 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 very curious. Oh man, maybe this one's a little too deep. I'm not going to go on that one. Let me go back to let me just stick with what we have here, right? Are you guys all right? No, I'm saying it anyway. I'm gonna risk the wrath of Clutch. I'm gonna risk the wrath of Clutch. Did you guys not find it really, really interesting that the second that the story came out, before the video came out, that we had all these reports about Jordan Poole kind of changing up on the team and his chemistry being the reason Draymond punched him? Did you guys see all that stuff that came out?
Yeah, I saw that Chris Haynes reported that, right?
Which Chris Haynes is a Clutch guy. Which Draymond is now super tight with Clutch and LeBron. And then we saw all those Lakers rumors going out there, right? I'm just curious, like, how does that affect the chemistry, right? Because I think that these dudes all know how it goes. They know how the agents play the games, and especially these big agencies like Clutch, how they play their games. And I think that if you saw that stuff about Jordan Poole that came out instantly after Draymond Green punched him, there's no way that Clutch didn't put that stuff out there. So I think the question arises, like, how are they going to view Draymond as far as that type of thing? Not even just the punch, but just the, like, trying to throw him under the bus and averting blame from him to these other people. Because I think we can all accept if that video hadn't come out, the press conference yesterday where Draymond says he's stepping away would never have happened. I just don't think he would have. He would never have had to.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that.
He tried to do damage control and, say that Jordan Poole is like this different guy and he's, so braggadocious. We had to just get out there and, I had to shut him up. But I don't think that's what that video showed, and he had to backpedal on that. So those are my conspiracy theories. I can't help but be that guy on the stream.
Strikes again.
I think Clutch has some explaining to do, some splaining to do, getting out there and dissing on Jordan Poole from the get-go. And I'm interested to see how this plays out, man. Because if the Kevin Durant thing, which by all accounts we all witnessed in real time, it was just an argument on the court that escalated. This is one of those things where this seems really deep between these guys because we saw Jordan Poole and Draymond get into it last season during the playoff run too. So I don't think they can recover from this. I mean, I might be too dramatic. And
Yeah.
maybe this is one of those things where their team is still so good that it's kind of like the KD season that they end up making it to the finals anyway. I think that this is something that's going to linger over this team all season because they're not going to figure out the contract situation during the year unless they make a trade midway through the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, I'm not going to go the clutch route, even though that is a very interesting. I think that there's too many like variables to add up to in order to get that. Not saying that it can't be true, but there's just usually I like to go by the simplest approach. Like whatever gets you to the answer, like whatever situation's happening, the simplest is the way that I think it really happened. Because I think conspiracies kind of breed from just kind of, thinking about, different, it comes from like watching movies, all that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that there is sometimes that,
What are you trying to say, Bernie?
I'm trying to say that you're full of it. No, I'm just kidding. No, but
No, I trust me, Bernie. I totally agree with you. Real life, Pete, outside of this stream, I hate conspiracy theories. Like real world conspiracy theories, there's only a couple of them that don't absolutely blow my mind how stupid they are. That being said, I almost think that what I'm saying, like my conspiracy theory is less of a conspiracy theory and more an explanation to the shortest route of how all this stuff got out. Like that's kind of why I think it could be true.
I mean, I mean, to me, I just think realistically, it really is just the contract situation that Draymond Green is trying to deal with, right? Because both of these guys are up by the end of next season, if I believe. I think maybe Poole might have another year, but this is the time where he's like, all right, it's time to make my bag now. He's kind of played that sixth man, kind of off the bench type of supporting role. The thing that was really weird about it to me is that I think it makes no. I mean, I understand it from a perspective of okay, both of these guys are fighting for that contract because they can't keep both of these guys. One guy has to go, and I think for the most part, I think the Warriors would more than likely keep Jordan Poole. As much as like you love Draymond Green, as much as what he did for the culture there, he's kind of like the gatekeeper of their culture. I think that, I think the owner wants to go in a youthful direction because he already has those pieces like you talked about, Pete, with Kuminga, with Moody, with Wiseman. Wiseman's kind of, whatever, right? Because, I mean, he hasn't been fully healthy in a minute.
He did look good in the preseason, the little bit I saw of him.
Yeah, he can move really well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest thing for him is just staying healthy and making sure that he knows, just how to keep his body, 65 games out of the season to at least play in. And I think that's something that hopefully he'll learn this season. I haven't played that much. I was going to insert a Brian Windhorst meme into your, as you were talking, because I feel like that.
And what happened with Brian Windhorst, Bernie? He couldn't have been more correct.
That's true.
He might be one of the biggest winners of the NBA offseason, Brian Windhorst. I mean, he was right about every prediction he had that was big in the media. So
yeah,
good on me and Windhorst.
Pete Windhorst, if you will.
And we both stand LeBron too, so it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, both these guys, they're competitive people. They're both fighting for the same contract. And I think Draymond Green has a history of this, and we talk about the nut kick to LeBron James. We talk about the stuff to Steven Adams. I feel bad for him. He's gotten like the blunt force of every Draymond Green incident early in his career, early Draymond career. I just think that's just Draymond Green. And again, whether you like it or not, Draymond Green is an NBA champion. He does a lot of great things. But I think what's disappointing to me about this whole situation, in my opinion, is that the new media that he claims to kind of be didn't really explain what happened. Not saying that he needs to explain like everything, be like, oh, this happened, blah, blah, blah. But, just to be like, it's just what happens when two brothers fight and things like that. That's the only thing I was kind of disappointed in, because I just think that, and I understand that this is an issue where you could say, oh, well, it should be handled internally because it's, no one needs to know the business. But I feel like Draymond Green is new media, and his new media is making sure that there's no like secrecies going on in the background. Like he's very upfront and really about sharing information. I just feel like now he's quiet because it's happened to him.
Oh, sure, dude. I mean, Draymond, of all people in the NBA to not want things like this to happen to him, as far as not having anybody who's going to come defend him in these moments, it's Draymond. I mean, he's made no friends, especially during his little new media escapade he's been on. You know, that's why I just, when everybody was saying whoever sent that video out got paid a huge amount of money from TMZ, I just couldn't help but think, man, there's got to be a lot of people in that building who wanted that video out there. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know. With all the track record of things we've heard about Draymond and just being difficult, and then, you know, he wants a contract, and by all accounts, this team for their fan base would have had to give it to him probably before this incident. So I can't help but think, man, it rings too many bells in my head. Like, this is such a huge aversion of giving Draymond on a max. No matter what you think about Draymond, no matter what you think, I think Draymond is one of the most critically important players of the 2010s. I mean, you'd have to be a crazy person to think he's not. Him on a max contract at this point in his career is a train wreck for everybody involved. That doesn't work. He doesn't have 4 or 5 years left in him of playing at a high level, a championship basketball player, let alone what that max would be. I mean, he'd be making $50+ million a year to be a 7-point a game scorer. That's historically bad contract. So, I mean, this is a huge win for the Warriors getting out of that contract. They don't have to do it, no matter what now. They don't have to do it. If I'm a Warriors fan, I might be a little excited about that. I don't know if that's the right way to think. Maybe there's a lot of Warriors fans out there that are super bummed about it. I've seen that sentiment. But I have seen some Warriors fans, too, that are like, hey, this is like a get-out-of-jail-free card with this guy.
Those must be the wagons that try to jump from ship to ship.
It probably is, Bernie. It probably is. But let me ask you guys before we move off of Draymond, because I do think this conversation has been probably beaten like a dead horse. But what team, if he was to get shipped out or, you know, go somewhere else, where would you like him to go? I mean, I've seen Detroit everywhere. People freaking out about that one. It would be
Detroit.
fun. I like the Hawks. I like him on Atlanta.
That would work because they kind of have like the Warriors 2.0 over there with DeAndre Hunter and Trey, and that's what they tried to build, actually.
Yeah.
The two teams that came to my head outside of Detroit, because I think that one's a little too obvious. Atlanta would be fun. I think he is like maybe the missing piece for like a season, and I can't back off of him in 2 or 3 seasons being terrible. I think that he's right there. But the other team I think would be super fun for Draymond, and I would love to see the fights that would sprout out of this, is the Heat. Send him to Miami. And then we get Jimmy Butler versus Draymond versus Spoelstra. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh.
That team would be so fun though. Draymond with them, that's like a perfect chemistry match if he buys into that, you know, the Heat culture. If he buys into Heat culture and just digs in and just he's like PJ Tucker on steroids, let's go. That'd be fun.
It would be a nightmare offensively, yes. But like
yes.
the defense.
I mean, their offense is bottom of the league, basically. But they would be defensively, they would be a nightmare to go up against.
I think he'd be good on the Clippers, actually. You could play him in that
I kind of like that
in that
too,
PG role. Yeah, play him at the PG, him, Kawhi, and Paul George that'd be scary.
What do you guys think about the Lakers fit? I mean, Brad, you in particular. I mean, that's been out there now.
I mean, as a Lakers, as a LeBron fan, I'd like him to play with LeBron for some defense, but I think the fit with Russ and Pat Bev would be horrendous. Like,
that'd be
just
funny.
Not enough shooting.
That'd be a Lakers
Talk
show.
about another one of the worst offensive teams in NBA history.
Exactly.
That team is just bottom tier. They would be so fun as far as like big minute defensive possessions though, because like if you have Pat, Bev, LeBron, AD, and Draymond on the court, whoever, it doesn't even matter who your fifth is. That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
Azkaban. Nobody can score.
Yeah, that'd be nuts. Bernie, what about you? Any team?
I might want to say maybe I think the Milwaukee Bucks could be an interesting fit for him. It's just kind of like that.
Dang, that would be. There's a lot of teams he'd be fun on, man.
I mean, I think the big thing that we can kind of get from this whole talk is the fact that he is a versatile player that can fit on most rosters. It's just then you have to think about the kind of off the court stuff not in terms of like he's a bad guy, but just talking about like the antics of the scraping of people's eyelids and getting everyone pink eye. Like there's just a lot of like there's a lot of stuff. Like I just remember like LeBron James's face after he just got raked by Draymond Green, and his eye was literally bloodshot red.
Yeah,
and I
I
remember,
do remember that. It was
and
weird. That was something.
James Harden was the same way. I mean, again,
Mhm.
he's a great guy. Like I think Draymond Green's a great guy, and he's a good player. But I think my biggest gripe with him at the current moment is just the antics on the court that lead to him. It's just frustrating because I think that he's the only guy in the league that could get away with it. No one else in the league could get away with.
Nobody. I agree totally, Bernie. He'd be cut. Almost any other player in the league is either cut or just whatever. I mean, he's not. Nobody gets away with that the way he does.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, man. Because I mean, go back to the thing I mentioned earlier. I mean, Mirotic and Portis, neither of those guys anywhere. I believe was the one that got sent out of Chicago after that. He was gone. I mean, 5 minutes after that happened, and he was the one that got punched. So, I mean, you got to think like this situation is really different than everyone else. And yeah, I think Draymond, the biggest thing with him is just chemistry. You got to put him on a team where he can be kind of the alpha male, and nobody is going to be. Like, I do think him and Pat Bev, I'd be worried about that fit. Like, what would happen on that team? I think that'd be pretty interesting. The team, this is my final one. I think he'd be super fun on the Timberwolves. I would love him to play for the Timberwolves. I think their offense would be really chaotic, but I think they could offset his terrible shooting with Ant and Cat
And
just
D'Lo.
spread. Yeah,
But
spread
what
D'Lo too.
yeah.
I think.
But
they'd
what
be
about
super fun.
what about the chemistry with Cat and Green? I feel like they would just
Dude,
like
Cat can use Bernie.
And
This is
Cat will get
on
bullied.
Your case about Cat all the time. He needs
Cat
it.
could use that. He could use that kick. Yeah,
I
honestly.
don't advocate for bullying, but if there's any dude in the league that could use a little bit, it's Cat, and second place is D'Angelo Russell. Those dudes, they're on the same team.
Agreed.
There's somebody in there that could bully those dudes. They'd be the top team in the West.
Yeah, but they don't react well to bullying. They just
No, they don't.
we've
They
seen
kicked
it.
Jimmy out of Minnesota. Yeah.
They kicked Jimmy out of Minnesota. That's why I'm just kind of like,
You're not wrong. Maybe they're at a different point though. Maybe who knows?
Yeah, maybe
Wiggins
he's grown up
responded well to Draymond.
yeah. Let's just really quick before we end it. The big thing I want to know from you guys is one. I get it's the main question. Will Draymond Green get suspended? I know he took a leave from the Warriors, but will he get suspended from the league? That's the biggest question.
Nah, I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
I think him walking away was like hey, you do this, and then we don't need to suspend you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll be back opening night.
I would be shocked if he's not there opening night. I would be really surprised.
I think my only maybe not issue or worry, but I think the league is very protective of their brand. So I would be interested to see if they kind of are like, well, either you handle this internally and suspend him, or we'll suspend him later down the line. So I think that's really, because I mean, again, if there was no video that came out like you guys talked about earlier, I think everyone would be like, okay, we don't really know what happened. It's handled internally. Those guys know what they're doing. But since the video came out, we saw how bad of a punch it was. I think that there's going to be some sort of suspension, maybe like a week or two, but not more than that.
Maybe it's even just like opening night he gets suspended. Maybe it's one game. I think at most it's a week, at the very most.
Yeah.
But I really don't think they'll do it. I think this is one of those things where the Warriors are such an established franchise at this point. They're one of the most beloved franchises in the NBA. I think the NBA for this long, just take care of it.
For real.
All right. And anyone else have anything before we head out?
No.
Nope.
Oh,
not on Draymond.
One last team that could use Draymond would be the Bulls, actually.
The Bulls. They need a
Since
lot
they don't
more.
play
That would
any
be fun,
defense
too.
at all.
They
I
might
think
need
their offense would still be not good.
They need
but
Jesus as well, playing shooting guard.
You need
That's true. Yeah.
Chicago. Yikes.
But everyone, let us know in the comment section down below. What do you guys make of this whole situation? I know that we're a couple days late on this story, but we just wanted to make sure we did our due diligence and make sure that all the information was out before we decided to talk about it here on the charge. So let us know in the comment section down below. Why do you guys think? Do you guys agree with Pete's LeClutch conspiracy theory that this is all to get Draymond Green on the LA Lakers in the near future?
All right, hold on.
Let us know in the comment section down below.
You just took me from a second shooter directly to the grassy knoll on the JFK conspiracy. Like you're making it much more convoluted, Bernie. I just think they leaked that Jordan Poole info. That's it. I think they made up Jordan Poole as a cocky, awful teammate to play with, and Draymond was right to punch him.
All right, let us know in the comment section down below. There we go. Okay, let's move on to our next story, and this story has to really do with the big two that we watched over this past week. I think everybody in the world got introduced to this guy. If you haven't known, now you know. Victor Wembanyama versus Scoot Henderson in a G League kind of exhibition match between Metropolitan 92 and, of course, the G League Ignite team. Again, I'm not going to keep shouting out the plug, but the plug, of course, obviously being the video about Victor here on the Charge channel. Again, we talk about his strengths. We talk about areas of improvement. Please go and check that video out, as it is a very fun and interesting watch to kind of talk about and see what we think about Victor Wembanyama as a draft prospect. But you could clearly see it if you guys watched the games over the past week. The kid put up 34 points in one game, 37 points in the other game. Scoot Henderson had a great game in the first game, and then unfortunately the second game he got hurt and couldn't continue. And so both of these guys are clearly, at this current point in time, the number 1 and number 2 draft picks in the next coming NBA season. And the question that we kind of want to dig in and kind of deep dive a little bit more as kind of fans of these guys and kind of fans of the NBA in general, what team do you think would be able to best accommodate both Scoot and Victor and kind of utilize their best assets as players? So Brad, why don't you start off first? Talk about these two guys. Which guy do you like more, and where is the best fit for both of these guys?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll start with Scoot. A player comp for Scoot, I think he's like a mix between like D Rose athletically, honestly Westbrook athleticism, we could go that far,
Yeah.
and like Darren Williams, like the game he has with his
Ooh.
handle and yeah, his vision has improved this year. I really see like some Darren Williams. You know, he's a taller, bigger guard. Darren Williams was bigger. Like he's a freak of nature. It's a shame he has to be in the same draft as Wemby because he would be number 1 in a lot of other drafts.
Yeah.
I wrote this down, Brad. I looked at it the last 15 years. Any other year, if Scoot was in it, as far as my thoughts on Scoot, I think there was only 3 seasons where I wouldn't have had him number 1 over anybody else.
Actually, I want to know which drafts did you have him not number 1 in?
So it was literally only Luka, and then it was Zion, and then I didn't count this one because Wembanyama is obviously, I mean, it's not even close, and that's not fair to Scoot. The only other one I had was AD. I had those 3. I had Luka, AD, and Zion. It's the only 3 guys I would have taken number 1 over Scoot in any of the last 15 years.
I agree with that.
I think some people might think that's crazy because I feel like, I'm sorry to derail you, Brad, but I honestly feel like Scoot is going to be so underrated because of Wembanyama. He is going to stay underrated because of Wembanyama.
I agree. All eyes will be on him. The
perspective, people don't understand how to shift their perspectives with that kind of stuff. You know, you see somebody like Wembanyama and people lack, like, I think the average fan lacks the ability to see, like, this really is a historic top 2. Like, these guys are historically good at the age they're at. They both could go into the league right now and probably be 2 of the best 20 young players maybe ever in the NBA. Like, genuinely, that's crazy. But their games are built for right now. Yeah, go back on Scoot. But yeah, Scoot, I had him only 3 drafts. Not counting this one, I would have put him number 1.
I agree with that take, honestly. I had a hard time deciding between him and Kyrie, but I'm going to go with Scoot.
I would have taken Scoot, honestly. Just, I mean, Kyrie played 7 games in college.
Yeah,
yeah.
But the talent is so high. But I think Scoot can impact, like, both ends of the floor more than Kyrie. Yeah.
100%. Like, because you think of somebody like Ja, right? Ja was somebody going into Ja's class, you had him, RJ, and Zion, right? And I was personally one of the few people I still had RJ over Ja, which I know a homer because I ended up getting him on my team. But even before the draft, I had RJ over Ja. But even knowing what we know about Ja now, if you just put them in the same draft, dude, I would still probably take Scoot, which I know is not fair because we know what Ja is now. But just saying, like, imagining we didn't know, put them in the same class. I mean, I think Scoot's a better prospect on paper.
I agree. Um, yeah, for his team fit, I honestly think the Kings would be a great fit. And I know they have De'Aaron Fox, but y'all know how I feel about De'Aaron Fox. I think that they should move him, get what you can for him, and you could start fresh and they could actually have an identity with Keegan Murray and Scoot as their like centerpieces, build around that. And that would be, and I think Scoot's a culture changer. The way he plays, how intense he is, how hard he tries to win. I think he would be able to change whatever putrid culture that they've had in Sacramento for the last 20 years. So that or the Rockets, because KPJ, as much as I love my Seattle boy, is not starting PG material as of now. I hope he has a good season, but if I was the Rockets, I'd be looking hard at Scoot since we might have a pick there.
Pete,
I thought about that a lot too. I thought about the Rockets for Scoot a lot too. Wait,
yeah,
do you want to go on Wembanyama, Brad, or do you want to do Scoot?
We can do Scoot, and then we could move on to Wemby. Like, yeah.
My pick for Scoot, dude, I love Scoot on the Magic. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to get him, unfortunately, and I know they have a lot of point guards, but I just feel like he's, like you said, Brad, I think one thing with Scoot that sticks out, especially when you listen to some interviews, I would highly recommend anybody who wants to get to know Scoot a little bit better. Kevin O'Connor on the Ringer just did a really good interview with him. I think it was like 20 minutes long, one-on-one interview. Very interesting, and it just showed how like mature he is, the type of leader he's going to be in the NBA. I want to put him on a great young core where he can just be their Jason Kidd, And I'm not saying he plays like Jason Kidd, but just be this like this point guard culture setter, maybe like even a Chris Paul type, where you can you set the tempo for your team night in and night out. I love him on the Magic because I think that fit is so nice with some of their bigs, and say what you will about the young guys on the Magic as far as their guards are concerned, none of them have anywhere near the ceiling that Scoot has. So if I'm in their position and I have guys like, I like Fultz a lot, I'd probably consider keeping him out of all the guys they have as guards. But you look at like what's going on with Suggs. I mean, he's injured. It didn't really go well from last season. Bernie, I know you're still super high on him. I mean, if the universe is there where you can get Jalen Suggs.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Jalen Suggs is fine, but he's no Scoot Henderson. So I like him on the Magic. The other team that I thought about a lot is, the Rockets were right there, but I thought about, Bernie, you guys are going to hate this again. I thought the Thunder, man. I think if they don't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I'll be the guy. I got to stay on brand. If they don't have him, he's incredible for that team. He's incredible for that team. With Chet down low, the spacing they would have, I love him on that team. With Josh Giddey as well, you have two ball-handling point guards, but they play really different. I like it. That's hard to guard.
Yeah. I mean, I think for Scoot, I'll do a more in-depth draft analysis in terms of, strengths, weaknesses, and all that stuff. So I'll save that for the video. But in terms of just like Scoot as a player and just overall, I mean, he's a very talented player. I think to me, what impresses me more so than the talent from him is really the leadership aspect. I can't remember, Pete or Brad, if you talked about it. But it was a really eye-opening experience to kind of see such a young man have like the most kind of like genuine reaction to being on the bench cheering on his teammates. Like, whenever he's like out, with rest and, he's trying to rest up so he can get back in the game, this dude is the first guy up no matter what happens. Like, guy makes a layup, guy does something, he's up first on the bench leading the team as kind of that energizer bunny. And that's a huge thing in today's game. I mean, again, a lot of people might see that as corny. Might people see that as like, why are you, excited about your teammates? But it just kind of, it breeds that sort of, culture changing aspect that you guys talked about. He can be a culture changer for an organization. I think, Brad, you talked about it with the Kings. Like
Hmm.
De'Aaron Fox, not really that much of a culture changer. Good player, but not a culture changer. Whereas if, like you said, he's on the Kings roster, he's going to change that culture for the better, especially for a team that hasn't really found its culture since 2002. And as they kind of continue to figure out what's the best team and things like that, I think I'm excited for Scoot if he does decide, or if the Kings do have that pick to go get him. Fortunately, got rid of Tyrese Halliburton, so I'm a little triggered by that. But get him and kind of Keegan Murray, and I think you have something special there. And I think you are right from that perspective. He's a great playmaker, like you said, mixture of D Rose and Westbrook for sure. I definitely see that in the way that he plays. I think to me, D Rose is still like the most athletic point guard in terms of just like how powerful he was for his size. I guess Westbrook's like that too, but I don't know. I'm more impressed with D Rose in that sense. But
That's fair. That's fair.
So D Rose was always so much more controlled with it. He had so much more poise. Like Westbrook, we all know we don't need to get on him, but chaos walking Westbrook.
yeah.
The other team too, I thought, is the Wizards. I think the Wizards could really use a culture setter like Scoot on their team.
I thought about that, but I didn't want to do that to him.
I didn't want to do it to him either. That's not why I picked him, but I honestly think they could probably use him the most of all these teams. Like he's the exact type of guy that you need in such a bleak situation. And I don't even know if people understand how bleak the Wizards situation is. I don't know if people will fathom it until they see how bad their record is at the end of this season, but they're terrible, man. They're so bad. They just have no direction. He's a direction setter.
Yeah. Isn't Bradley
what
Beal
about-
in health and safety protocols too? Actually,
He just got in there. He just got in there a couple hours ago.
That's terrible.
Nice. Well, let's all fawn over our guy Wembanyama. Let's talk about him. Let's get to him. So let's basketball drool. Brad, what were some of your thoughts about Wembanyama when you're watching him?
LeBron put it best actually. He said, people have been talking about unicorns, but he called him an alien, and I couldn't agree more. Like this guy he's not from Earth. He's literally not from here.
Yeah.
He's 7'3" without shoes, so 7'5" in shoes, 7'4.5", whatever you want to say. Made Rudy Gobert look not short, but look like a normal human being, which is insane. He can shoot the ball, he can rebound, blocks everything. I think I saw something, somebody tweeted it, but it was like Kristaps Porzingis and another player hold this record for like 5 blocks, 5 threes made, and 5 rebounds in a game. And Wemby's going to break that in like the first 10 games. Like Kristaps Porzingis is second on that list with 2. I think the number one person has like 5.
You're going to rename that the Wembanyama. That
they're going to have to.
Yeah.
They're going to have to. He's going to break that so easily. He can I really don't see any flaws in his game other than, his strength, but he's a young kid. He'll put on muscle, get into an NBA training regimen. So it's nothing to worry about. And honestly, when you're that tall, you don't really need to be that strong. We see KD. Really yeah, exactly. And that's skilled too. So I can't say enough good things about him. He's Congolese. Shout out my people. I love this kid. Like I'm about to get a France jersey today, actually.
I genuinely think I'm going to buy one too. I mean, I couldn't be more all in on somebody before they've played one professional minute of anything than I am on this guy. The thing that sticks out the most with Wembanyama, and I know we were just talking about this with Scoot, but I think that's what makes these guys so special. Like, I was so impressed with the maturity Wembanyama has, because you have to think, like, let me put into perspective what I'm trying to say. Like, I think somebody like LeBron is probably the greatest example of handling expectations and pressures we've ever seen in modern sports. I don't think there's anybody who's handled more just incredibly high expectations and lived up to them, but also kept his head above water and just been like a reasonable, good person for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you think of LeBron, LeBron has handled his position better than you could ask almost anybody in human history to do, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Wembanyama is that, but I was like so impressed with how he's handling these people talking about him, just the maturity, the level of like, I just want to play basketball. I'm not sitting for this year to go number 1 in the draft. He doesn't have to step foot on a basketball court for a full calendar year, and he's the number 1 pick guaranteed in the next draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that response of like, why would I do that? Why would I sit and do that? I won't get any better. Which, that's the type of thing. If you're the league, you have to be put on notice. This guy is already good enough to come into the league and be a top 25 player, in my opinion. I genuinely think that. There's no
Absolutely
stopping
agree.
it. There's no stopping it. So, and I know I've been bombarding you guys with this in the chat, in our group chat, but like, you give this guy a sky hook, which is honestly the most criminally underused offensive move in the NBA right now. It's over. It's absolutely over. Go back and watch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, how unguardable he was with his sky hook. This guy is 3 or 4 inches bigger than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. His footwork is better. He's faster. And I'm not saying he's going to be better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, but he certainly has the potential to be that, which is insane.
He will be.
It's a top 3 player of all time, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And if he could add that, there's nobody who can get high enough to block a shot from this guy. There's nobody. There's not one player in the league that has the athleticism to get that high on a consistent basis. But my thing with Wembanyama is just, man, I just think he's the leader that any terrible team could use. You know, he's going to go into any of these squads and want to work and just be better. And he's going to make everybody on the team better. And that's something I think I'm so interested to see the dynamic between Scoot and Wembanyama throughout their career. Because I think that's something that is like one of my favorite like storylines in NBA history is usually like draft classes and how they stack up next to each other. I think one of the most recent ones that gets talked about all the time is Trey and Luka, obviously, right? They got traded for each other in the draft, same couple picks next to each other. And, you know, their careers they're intertwined forever. And I think the same thing is going to happen with Wembanyama and Scoot. And I think that it's only going to make both of them better. Imagine Scoot is always going to be trying to live up to this top pick that's historic and alien, and vice versa. Scoot is good enough to, I think, push Wembanyama to new heights too. I couldn't be more excited. You guys want to hear my anime question storyline of this whole situation? It's about Wembanyama.
Oh, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So there was a quote that came out. Let me pull this quote from Giannis up because it made me think of this little situation. All right. You look up Giannis Wembanyama. He says, all right, where is it? Oh my gosh, I'm dropping the bag here, boys. I'm dropping the bag. All right, this is Giannis's quote after watching Wembanyama. He has the chance to be one of the best, not at his age, not in Europe, but one of the best to ever play this game. We have never seen someone like that before. I think it's a good challenge for everybody in the league to have somebody who's 7 foot. It says he said 7'2", but I mean, I think we all know in shoes, this dude, like you said, 7'4", 7'5", is able to shoot over you, dribble like he's a guard, block shots, and run down the floor fast. We got to get ready for this kid, you know? He's going to be really good. And it's that last part that sticks out to me. Like, if you go back and look at some of the quotes around the league about LeBron when he was coming out of high school, there was a lot of disrespect for LeBron by players even on the Cavaliers, if you go back and look. I don't remember which player it was exactly, but there was people even on the Cavs that were dissing him. Like, we don't need this guy to be better. And then they were terrible enough to get him in the draft. But the thing that I think is super interesting is you have the league is on notice already. He's a teenager. He's not in the league. He's a year away. And you have guys like Giannis say, we got to get ready for him in particular. Because what are we going to do when he gets here? So my anime plot line is like, this dude is like a prodigy level of player where you have even the best players in the world on notice that he's coming. And I was curious what you guys think is like his anime character comp. And I wrote Itachi. I think Wembanyama is like 7'5" Itachi. He's NBA Itachi.
Ooh.
He's like, you know, he's joining the Anbu and stuff when he's like 8 years old or whatever. Everybody is like, what are we going to do with this kid? He's so much stronger than us. I guess that's the question is there an anime character that Wembanyama, I mean, he's coming in like he's Broly or something from Dragon Ball Z.
I like the Tachi comp because that's, yeah, you're right. Prodigy, nobody could really see him.
And you can already just see, like, and I'm not saying that Giannis or LeBron, any of these dudes are scared of him. That's not what I mean. It's more just like it takes a nobody was saying that about Zion, I don't think. Even Zion was like so talked about, so watched and looked at, but it wasn't like I didn't see a lot of people like, what are we gonna do with this guy when he gets here? You know? Didn't see any of that. So Bernie, what about you? Anybody? Yeah, oh dang, maybe I nailed it a little too hard. I was just thinking about like who is this guy if he was an anime character? He probably is, man. Like where he's taken on, he's like, is he gonna have to destroy the French national team from the inside? Is that the
Oh my
mission?
gosh.
All right. The last thing for Wembanyama I was thinking is did you guys see the story about Embiid now has the option to play for France or the US national team?
I did see that.
No,
He's
that
gonna
bums
play
you
for
out,
Team
Brad.
USA. Yeah, it
Think he
hurts. He should
is,
be
but
playing for Cameroon.
he should, but I want to see him play for France now. I want to see Embiid and Wembanyama play together. That was the other thing where it was like, this kid is so good. I just want to see him play with good players. Like I don't even want Embiid on the U.S. national team. Make it more interesting. If you have Embiid and Wembanyama on the French team, they legitimately have a chance to win the gold medal at the Olympics. So I think that would be fun. A little bit more competition for the U.S. team would be good.
That's true. But I feel
I
like
like that.
I feel like Embiid just wants an easy ring. He wants all the accolades since Jokic has been
He
whipping.
probably does, Brad. I think he'll end up playing for the U.S. team, especially how we
Yeah,
talked about it. But having Wembanyama on your side is pretty interesting. I mean, imagine that
that's
big
true.
three. I
Yeah,
mean, they have Rudy, Embiid, and Wembanyama. They got the trees.
Rudy would just be sitting on the bench most of the time.
He really would. Yeah. Doesn't translate very well. Oh, he is better in international. Yeah. There's no three. How
That's true. Yeah,
does three in the key get called in international? Isn't it like less? They don't call that, do they? Yeah. Don't they call it? Isn't it ruled differently in international basketball? I think you can stay closer to that. I don't know. Well, I guess that's off topic, but yeah, you're not wrong. Rudy definitely is better in international basketball. I agree.
hmm he's like that. Yeah,
It's Siakam, Embiid, even
OG Anunoby.
yep. There it will be. Yes. Oh yeah.
Not the Jazz, please.
Oh, we're gonna see the Jazz. I think it's Ralph Sampson. I think that's who you're thinking of. Yeah. Before Ralph Sampson got hurt. Yeah, very similar, honestly. Yep.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. No. You're not overstating it, Bernie. Like I'm in basketball love
Yeah,
with women. I
you can't overstate it
genuinely,
at all.
I rode so hard on the Mobley could have been defensive player of the year last year, and I genuinely he was one of the better defenders in the NBA last season. I still stand by that. I don't think I was crazy. We'll talk about Mobley later in the stream. I like Wembanyama's even more so. He honestly could be defensive player of the year the minute he steps out onto the court. I mean, the guy is going to block more shots than maybe anybody ever if he plays a whole career.
Mhm.
He doesn't have to jump to block just about 90% of the league. He can stand there, get on his tiptoes and still get block shots from almost anywhere on the court. So that was like you said, Bernie, the defensive stuff that's just different. That's just scary. That's why, to me, like I mentioned Mobley again, like that's why I put him so high in my rankings for last season. He was my clear-cut number one. And even more so with Wembanyama. I still love Mobley, and Wembanyama is Mobley on steroids himself. Like he's just the ultimate version of that guy, which we're just going to keep seeing more of these guys, these huge, long guys who can dribble up the court. They played guard when they're young or whatever it is, and they grow into these huge frames. It's going to keep going. And I thought that was something interesting too that Giannis said. He said, I believe in 2045, everybody is going to look like Victor. I can't disagree at all. Because like you said, Bernie, this is the nail in the coffin for anybody that has been anti-positionless basketball. Like this is the nail in the coffin. What are they going to do with all NBA when this guy joins the league, right? You're going to tell me that we're not going to fix how the all NBA voting works so we can't have him, Embiid, Jokic on the same thing? Like they have to work on that stuff, because how are you going to leave him off of lists if he ends up being what he should be if he's not even a center? Because they're going to want to say he's a center, but he's not going to play like a center realistically. So I couldn't agree more with you, Bernie. Like I think that this is the Steph Curry for three-point shooting of positionless basketball. Like he's going to break conventional basketball wisdom and start making people shift what they think a guy can be or what positions he needs to play, where he needs to be. I'm so excited to see him play in the NBA. Let's get off of him because we could just keep going for another hour.
Wait, I have a team fit. I got to get out there for him.
Oh, we didn't do that. We didn't even do that. Yeah, go, Brett.
Yeah. Okay, I have two. My one that would be like, just for entertainment purposes would be him on the Hornets, because him and LaMelo would be show time. That offense would run like beautiful. It would run like Queen Latifah singing in a church or something, bro. Like I don't even know. That would be perfect.
Perfect scenario.
Yeah, bro, it'd be beautiful. And it'd bring, tickets, man. It would sell tickets. Adam Silver would love it. So I could see him rigging the draft for that, especially since LaMelo is sinking right now.
Yeah,
but
Brad, you're not wrong. If there's conspiracy theories for rigging of drafts, that's where he'll go.
Yeah, like they need that.
Michael Jordan with LaMelo and Wembanyama.
Ooh, I didn't even think about the MJ aspect. Yeah, see, that's perfect. But my perfect dream fit for him would be the Spurs, because they have all the international connections, so he might have someone he knows on the coaching staff, someone he's familiar with, and then just how they develop players and how they could build around him because they actually have a competent front office. I think the Spurs I really hope he lands there.
Yeah, Spurs are my number one. I love the idea of him with Pop. Pop gets to ride off into the sunset with a last little 3-4 year run with Wembanyama. And I just I don't know if I texted this to you guys, but I love the idea of Wembanyama spending just countless hours with Tim Duncan. Just put him in the lab with Tim Duncan. Like that's exactly who he needs to be with to learn everything he needs to just maintain his body and career for 20 dynasty level years. I would love to see that. Which, on a side note, he's now, I don't know if you guys saw this, he's training with Dirk's shooting coach, which I'm going to try and pull this name off the top of my head. I think his name is like Gershwin Holger or something like that. But Wembanyama with the Dirk one-legged step back is nasty. Just throwing that out there. Brad, I knew you were going to say those two teams because we're both on the same page. I think Charlotte and the Spurs are the top two teams I'd want to see him go to as well. However, I had to be a little creative. I thought of somewhere else he could go. This would be fun just on so many levels. No, Bernie, but the Lakers are involved. The Lakers are involved. The Lakers don't have their first-round pick this year because swap rights, the AD trade. So if the Lakers were to bottom out, Brad, I'm so sorry to say this to you, If
Oh
the
my
Lakers were
gosh.
to absolutely bottom out, LeBron gets hurt, AD is hurt, they're the worst team in the West, they somehow get the odds to get the number 1 pick, that's the Pelicans pick. So you
Oh
have
my gosh.
Wembanyama with Zion and Herb Jones and CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram. That is unfair. That's absolutely unfair, but there's part of me that would love to see it. Because
I would
that is,
love to see that.
I mean, talk about a true dynasty. That team is borderline unbeatable if you were to throw that squad out there. So, yeah, I think that's my sleeper. That'd be super fun. I would feel really bad for the Lakers, but shouldn't have traded that much stuff for AD. Sorry. It's a tough look. They got the
They
ring.
did get the ring. Yeah.
Got the ring, but Bernie, you can't lie. That ring would start looking a little salty if Wembanyama was the pick that was given up for it. They're not going to be that bad. That's just in a crazy nightmare-induced world. That would be the situation we'd all have to deal with. Wembanyama and Zion on the same team.
Yeah. I think for a fit that I would go with, I think I'd be a more obvious one for me, and I think it would be the Thunder. I think to complete kind of the whole Chet Holmgren on this team, think about like how big their lineup's going to be when you get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, you get Josh Giddey, you have Chet Holmgren, you have Lou Dort, and then you have Victor, and just having the towers, and especially the towers that are mobile. They're not going to be in the post kind of doing what they want. Like they're going to be two guys that can both be inside and outside and create those type of I mean, the crazy like offenses that, and they might have to fire Billy Donovan and get a new coach. Or no, he's not the coach there. Who's the coach for the Thunder right now? Is it Billy Donovan?
Mark Daigneault. Mark Daigneault, something like that.
Mark Daigneault, yeah.
Yeah.
But like
he was the guy they hired last season.
You get a coach, and I'm not sure too much about his history, but you get a coach that like offensively knows how to get the best out of his players. I think that this might, if those two end up on the same team and give them maybe a couple years to kind of work some chemistry out together, this might be one of the best offensive teams and best offensive seasons for any team in history. And I know that the Warriors kind of play that style of basketball where, you know, the offense is amazing, but I think the things that you can do differently from like having the shooters that the Warriors are to kind of the bigs and the positionless stuff that you can do for the Thunder if they have this guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm even thinking about it right now, like in my head, and even just having my clipboard next to me and just drawing X's and O's of like how would I use both of those guys with that team.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
That'd be fun
so
basketball.
You'd have to come up with some new stat tracker for blocks and 3-pointers for one team specifically.
Oh,
I mean, they'd break every
Mm-hmm.
record for threes and blocks combined, like on one squad. That'd be insane. Just the block party that would be Chet and Wembanyama next to each other. I mean, you would not be able to drive on that team really at all. That'd be almost an impossibility to get in there.
Yeah.
I like that one, Bernie. I mean, Again, I don't think the Thunder are going to be bad enough to get him probably with who they have. Even with Chet hurt, I think they're going to be terrible. I don't think they're going to trade Shai. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to get him. But it'd be fun.
They could do
I like it.
with all their millions of picks that they got.
Well, that was the last question I was going to say. Like, do you think there's any scenario in which we see the biggest trade of all time to get this number 1 pick? Or do you think, like, I'm more of the opinion, I don't think there's almost anything anybody could put together to get that number 1 pick off of whoever gets it.
Well, I think
that's possible.
I think that's the reason why like there was a lot of hesitancy on trades afterwards, because they kind of realized, okay, this is like the class that you want to like get one of these guys. And we all know with the lottery system, it's all, you know, it's the luck of the draw. And you got to really be like hoping and praying that you have enough ping pong balls on your side to get you the guys that you want. So,
yeah, I mean,
I'm holding the fort.
This is going to be historic tanking season. That is for sure. It's going to be nuts. But yeah, I would be very curious. I mean, if the Thunder get like, let's say they end up with the 5th pick, and we know they tried to go get Cade a couple years ago with their picks, but they didn't offer 10 first-round picks. I mean, they offered 10 first-round picks. They have like 9 more still, I think. So they could go throw out like double the highest trade of all time and try and get him. So It'd be very interesting. People are gonna go absolutely full embarrassment mode to try and get this guy. They don't care. There's no dignity when it comes to having Wembanyama on your squad.
Yeah, definitely.
I
For sure.
agree. I would, yeah. If I got that number 1 pick, though, I'm holding diamond hands. Nothing you could offer me would please me to give that up. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, come on. I mean, it would be interesting. Like, let's say like a decent team has a bad year and gets number 1, and you know the offer is like what the Cade offer was. Let's say it's like Shea and something else plus like 8 picks. I think there might be like a good team and they just fall into that spot that would do it. But it would be you'd be pretty hard pressed to have anybody that would bite on a trade.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. But let us know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of this Victor Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson? I know we kind of deviated away from a lot of different stuff on this topic, but it was a very interesting conversation to have with both of you in terms of what is the best fit for both these guys, who you guys like for them on a roster. Because I think at the end of the day, we both know, or all three of us know, I should say, that these are going to be the top 2 picks, no matter what happens. I mean, there could be a crazy season by somebody else, but I think for the most part, these 2 guys are really going to be it. And the rest of the teams are going to be salivating, trying to figure out how to get ping pong balls on their side. So let us know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of both Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson? Who are you taking? And let us know in the comment section down below. Did you have one thing to say, Pete?
No, I'm down to talk about whatever else. Do we have anything else? I have a couple little pieces of things we could just briefly talk about.
Yeah, we're probably gonna save the award show for next week, just because I think we can kind of combine it with the All NBA teams, and kind of
let's do it.
Do it that way.
Let's do a big stream.
Yeah, that way So let's what were you gonna say, Pete?
All right, here I got a few little topics we could talk about. One, let me just talk about this Kyrie quote because I thought it was hilarious. Based on the preseason games they've had, and I think we can kind of combine this with our awards predictions a little bit. We could talk more preseason stuff, what we saw next week, but I thought the Nets looked really terrible in the preseason. I don't know if you guys watched any of the Nets. Brad, it was you that was really hard on Steve Nash, right?
Yep.
I'm starting to take your side on that. I mean, there was I was astounded at how mismanaged and disorganized the Nets looked. But Kyrie's quote is as simple as this. He says the team isn't playing hard enough, which I find to be one of the most humorous quotes from any star in the league I've seen in a while. Do you think anybody takes him seriously on their team when he says stuff like that?
No. I wouldn't take them seriously.
Maybe Claxton.
Yeah, how could you? No, nobody's taking that
definitely
serious,
not.
Bernie.
Definitely not.
Kyrie telling you you're not playing hard enough is like, I mean, come on, that's insanity. I just feel so good about our Nets placement on our rankings list. Like we put them pretty low. They're literally tied for the 3rd highest odds to win the championship this season. I think they're tied with the Clippers and somebody else as the third set of teams where they can win. That's mind blowing. That's not going to happen. Yeah,
they're
not
playing
ready
team.
for it. Yeah, like I mean, I was stunned at how the chemistry, and not that I should have been stunned, but I was even stunned just at how bad it was. Like Ben with Kyrie and KD, it just didn't work, man. It didn't look good. And I know it's preseason, so I'm not going to go nuts. But between the quote, he's telling them they're not playing hard enough in preseason. They just started playing together, and they already look that bad. I would keep your eyes out for like a really just ugly stretch from the Nets to start the season. Next thing, Bernie, I'm going to ask you because we've had our long conversations about Mr. Rob Pelinka. Did you see that Rob Pelinka got a contract extension?
I did.
What did you think about that, Bernie? And then we'll hear from our Lakers fan, Brad. But let's hear what you think, Bernie. What did you consider about this Pelinka extension?
I mean, this is a great sign if you're a fan of another NBA team. I just think.
My God.
I think for me, like the situation with Rob Pelinka is kind of one of those where, unfortunately for him, I think he kind of gets especially with the Lakers stigma of just like trying to trade for stars, trying to get guys. Because I think the problem with the Lakers is that they're never patient enough to wait for a rebuild. You could see it with Laker fans. They're kind of the weirdos of the and Laker fans more in general, not LeBron fans. Well, some LeBron fans can be, but for the most part, Laker fans. They're one of the biggest. They're the weirdest NBA community because they always act like the sky is falling down after one game. They're almost kind of like Dallas Cowboys fans in a sense, where like the sky is falling one
Exactly
game.
the same.
They think that, oh well, we need to get rid of our best. We need to get rid of some players. Like we're never going to be better with this player. And I just think that for me, I think as Rob Pelinka, you can't really win in a sense because I think NBA owners and GMs they're human too, and they're gonna continue to want to see the Lakers kind of fail in a sense because they're tired of what happened to them in the 2010s and now even the 2020 bubble season that they had. I think they just want to kind of let the Lakers go back to those Jordan Clarkson led Lakers and whoever else is. I think Julius Randle's on this team. On that team, I mean, whatever team that was, it was just it was a joke.
Yeah, they were
After
so bad.
Kobe
Brad,
retired.
what do you think, Brad? Does this make you feel any better or worse, any different?
I got that alert yesterday from Shams, I think, and I just laughed. Like, it makes no sense. He hasn't shown that he deserves a contract extension. He lucked into a championship roster with, LeBron wanting to go to LA and then AD wanting to follow Bron.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he had his backup plan for the Kawhi signings, or for when Kawhi didn't sign, like with Danny Green. Rondo came on later, I think, can't remember.
Yeah.
But he lucked into a lot of those guys, and KCP was also clutch. But KCP was on the roster, but he's clutch, which is like part of LeBron's camp. So he didn't really do anything. They won a championship, and then he blew up the team. Blew up the team and made them way worse than what they were. Didn't have any identity whatsoever. Defense was their identity, and he was like, okay, let's move away from that. Like, what? Yeah. And then even the next year, he makes an even worse move. Signs Dennis Schroeder, signs Andre Drummond, promises those guys they'll start. Packages all his good role players for Russell Westbrook, and now he can't trade Russ, won't attach picks, yada, yada. Y'all know the deal. This guy is terrible. He is a clown. There's no way they should have extended him. Certified clown, bro. Legit, I could build that team better than him. I swear. Like, give me the Lakers, bro. I would build a better team.
All three of us in charge. We'll put together a way better squad. No,
seriously.
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind is this guy must be the greatest. Like, you're sipping a glass of red wine in LA on a nice, veranda somewhere. He must be the best wine drinking partner Jeannie Buss has ever had. He must be. That's the only explanation. They must hang out and enjoy each other's company because this doesn't make it doesn't make any sense. No matter how you view the Lakers and their success and non-success for the last couple seasons, it's bad for him no matter what. Either he's letting LeBron in clutch run the show and not do a very good job, which is already enough for me to say you shouldn't be a GM, or two, you're making all these terrible choices and making your team way worse and not understanding how to build around somebody like LeBron. So this is an atrocious signing. If LeBron wasn't there, there's no universe in which this guy is still the GM of the Los Angeles Lakers. He would have been fired years ago. It's shocking. This is shocking, man. I genuinely am starting, and I don't like the Lakers. I like LeBron a lot. I love LeBron, but I am starting to feel bad for the post-LeBron Lakers already. I'm already predicting. I just feel it. They're going to be so bad when he leaves. They don't have anything to build. None of these guys on the team besides AD are at any age where they're going to be good for a couple seasons after LeBron leaves. And you're stuck with Pelinka. What is Pelinka going to do to rebuild this team? They were one of the worst teams in the league before LeBron signed there out of nowhere. And that had nothing to do with Rob Pelinka. He went there because he wanted to go there. So terrible, terrible, terrible signing. I couldn't believe it. The Lakers are so mismanaged right now. Managed like a bad small market team, except they happen to be the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
All right. I have one more thing. And this is a little just a revisit to our rankings. I had a couple thoughts, a couple personal corrections and questions for you guys as far as our placement of a couple teams. Okay. I'm
Don't
going
say
to
the
ask you,
Knicks.
did we underrank or overrank this team? And we'll go on for just a few teams. Okay. One of the first teams that jumped to my mind is the Pelicans. I think we underrated the Pelicans. And Brad, I know you were higher on them than we were, but I think you were right. I think we should have moved them up a little bit. Watching them, and I know it's just preseason, but man, the Pelicans look good. Their roster is so nice. I can't stop thinking about it. Did we
Let's
did we
go.
did we underrate them, Bernie?
Uh,
Seeing healthy Zion. Zion looked really good, Bernie. That's the best, and I know it's preseason. That's the best defense Zion has played I've ever seen him play.
Mhm.
I think, what do we rank them at? 7, 6,
I
8?
think they were at 7 or 8. No, they might have been 8 because the Lakers were 9. I think they were 8. That's crazy. They might be a top 5 seed. I think they might be 5 or 4.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
maybe that was the case, and then I think maybe we overranked the Suns then.
Suns.
The Suns then, because I mean, the
Yeah.
Suns just look.
Which was one of my other teams. They look awful. They're in a bad spot. The
They're down.
Suns.
They're down
So,
bad right now.
I think they're in trouble. I think we overrated the Suns, and I think we underranked the Pelicans. Another couple teams, the Grizzlies. I know, Brad, you were pretty down on the Grizz, but I think the more I think about the Grizzlies, and Bernie, I know you and I are very high on their really young core, like the guys just getting added to the team this season, like David Roddy. We both love what's his name too, the big guy, Kenny Lofton Jr. Big fans of him. I think that this team is kind of
Baby
built.
Zebo.
Baby Zebo, and I can't stop thinking Desmond Bane is going to take a jump this year too. People are going to realize Desmond Bane is like actually like a legit dude in the league. So I think we might have underrated them. Bernie, do you feel like we did them dirty? But I think they got the 3rd seed in our rankings.
They got. I mean, the only one I would say maybe would be like you put the Timberwolves down by 1 and move them
Yeah,
up 1. But I mean, that's
the
really
more I
it.
think about it, I would have moved them down.
But again, you know, we buy into the hype. You know, new shiny toy. We want to gravitate towards it. So,
That's in our tall Frenchman, Bernie.
yeah, our tall center Frenchman. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, they're ranked probably appropriate where they're at. Again, I don't think this team necessarily going to take a downturn, but I don't think that this team necessarily going to be going up either because they're going to miss Triple J for a couple weeks because he's going to be unhealthy. He's going to he needs to get back into NBA basketball shape. So,
yep. Last team is the Hawks. I think we underrated the Hawks too. That just watching them and really seeing with the thing that's jumped out with the Hawks for me and something that I didn't really give enough credit to the addition of DeJounte Murray. I think one thing that's going to be so good for the Hawks and something that I definitely would put them higher if we were going to do our list again. I think we're going to see so much a better version of Trey with his off-ball play. Like the way he's going to be able to cut and kind of play almost more of like a Steph Curry role in terms of just always moving and getting into these, spots where he can take clean spot up threes. I think they're going to be really nice, man. And DeJounte Murray he looks really good in their system. He looks like he's ready to like have a big jump in production on a good team. I mean, we talked about it briefly with them, but he's not really played on good teams, DeJounte Murray. So I think the Hawks, we underrated them a little bit. I put them significantly below teams like Cleveland. I know you guys laughed at me. I put Cleveland number 1 for a little bit. I ended up putting them at 2 in my East rankings, but I don't know if they're that far off of Cleveland, which sound crazy after last week's stream. So what do you guys think? Did we underrate the Hawks a little bit?
Yeah, I think you're right. I had them behind the Heat, which sounds nuts after watching the Heat.
Exactly, Brad. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
They're better than the Heat. I think Heat fans are going to not like that, but I'm sorry. Look at their offense. Their defense isn't that far behind either.
Exactly, yeah.
And what about you? I know you like the Hawks more than I do in general. So
I know I'm a Hawks believer. I have been for a couple years. Yeah, I mean, I think DeJounte Murray, the addition of him, I think it just adds a different dynamic. I think you were right. I kind of have a video on this channel, dubbed "Are these the new Warriors of the East?" And this was like years ago when they finally kind of built their little team that they had before the DeJounte Murray trade. But I think even more so now. I think that this is definitely
Yeah.
a Warriors clone in a sense where, I think DeJounte Murray can be it's going to be the thing with him is that, he's going to be compared to Klay Thompson because obviously the two guard. But I think he adds a little bit of a different dynamic compared to, I would say, Klay Thompson. I think more so DeJounte is going to be heavily defensively focused, going to get a lot of steals, but he's also going to be assisting the ball a ton. And I'm excited to see him with all these guys that he has at his disposal, your Capellas, your Collinses, and now even with Young, you said off the ball, I think that'll also be a good addition as well. So I'm excited for the Hawks. I think I have them right where they're at. I think top 5 is probably appropriate for them because I still think that they are still growing, and I think the chemistry might take a little bit of time before they finally find their stride later in the season.
Yeah, Bernie, and your video was what came to mind because you made that video right when they they got the draft, where they got Herter and they got Trey, and that was kind of your basis of going that way. And I couldn't agree with you more. Like I think this team is more in line with that thought than that team was. Like DeJounte is ball handling Klay. Like he's not just spot up Klay, really. And not that I'm not trying to take too much away from Klay or say DeJounte's better, but he's going to do a little bit more than Klay did for the Warriors, just in terms of he's going to handle the ball and bring it up the court more than Klay did. So I like this a lot. I think we're going to see an even better version of Trae Young as well, which I think is going to be a little scary for some teams as far as what are they going to do to guard that guy, even though he's 6 foot tall. My absolute last team, you guys can tell me if I'm crazy. Brad, you're probably going to like this. The more I thought about it, I would actually put Philly as my number 1 seed in the East. I've been thinking about Philly. I've been thinking about Philly a lot this week. I think they're going to have such a good regular season, man. I can't stop
blinded
thinking
by the
about
honey
how
buns.
I think their roster is really deep, Bernie. Look at their roster. They have 12 dudes that could be in any rotation. Any rotation in the league, you have 12 guys. James Harden is healthier. I think Tyrese is going to take another step up, and Embiid is I think he's going to be on the warpath this season, man. Yeah, that's my last correction. I would put them as my number 1 seed regular season, the 76ers. I think they're going to have an incredible season.
Can't go that high
just
on
to
them.
flame out in the play.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Doc Rivers still
talking
the
about
coach.
that.
Regular
They still got
season, I
Doc.
agree.
They still got Doc.
Oh my gosh.
Change
my
change
chest.
Doc out, dude.
One day.
Please, honestly. Yeah.
All right. With that being said, thank you once again for joining us here on The Charge. I know that Sunday football doesn't really work necessarily too well for you guys, so I do apologize to our Charge viewers that this is on Sunday, but we had to kind of make some pivots, and that's on me. So I do apologize to you guys for doing that. But nevertheless, thank you once again for joining us here on The Charge. Again, if you'd like to help out, there's a donation link in the YouTube description. So if you guys want to donate to the channel, again, optional, not mandatory. And then also kind of just continue to watch the videos, share them with your friends, and let your people know, like, hey, this channel really knows what they're talking about when it comes to basketball. They have a lot of different opinions on here that are not the same, which is great because it adds for dialect and conversations that, if you agree all the time, the video would be like a 2-minute video. Whereas now, with kind of disagreements and kind of the talking points and the other points that people bring up, that's what makes this channel the best. But nevertheless, everybody, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, the more likes, the more subscribers, the more this video is shared, the more the algorithm loves the channel, and the channel can grow to something like we talked about earlier, something special where we can build a basketball community, talk about different things, and really get into it in terms of support from you guys and really kind of supporting the channel for the stuff that we need in order for the channel to grow and become bigger than 1,000 subscribers and actually grow up to 2,000 and so on and so forth. So enough of my spiel, enough of my propaganda. We'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Charge. Thank you once again for joining, and we'll catch everybody on the next episode. And again, thank you to Brad, thank you to Pete for joining us here and continuing a very best, probably one of the best conversations I think we've had on the channel so far. So I'm excited.
Always a pleasure.
Stay tuned, everybody. We got big plans.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bernie, for having us. I agree, man.
Yep.